Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Dhena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Brinda Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Gaura Premanande Hari Hari Bo. Welcome to ISKCON of Silicon Valley. Most of you are watching online from various places, and today is the Divine Appearance Day of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So we've been celebrating all day long, and devotees are very joyful because there's nobody better than Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And if one takes shelter of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, then one's easily delivered from the material world because of his merciful nature. He, according to Karabhajana Muni, removes all the embarrassing aspects of one's life. What are some of the most embarrassing aspects of one's life? It's called paribhava. Can't think of anything? Disease? That's on your mind right now for some reason? Disease? Yeah, disease is kind of an embarrassing situation. And anything else? What? Old age? Any small stuff? Losing things? Yes? Disappointment from what? Anything is a general thing. I want something specific. Continuing with what kind of bad habits? Something is general, not specific. Anything specific? What? Material affection is general, not very specific. Attraction to? Attraction to material. These are all general things. Can I have one specific thing? What? Not getting upset when you're driving. That's a little more specific. Yeah. Anyway, by taking shelter of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, one is able to overcome the embarrassments of life. Paribhava gyam. Gyam means to diminish or to kill. So paribhava gyam means deyam sada paribhava gyam abhishtadoham. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the one who is fit to be meditated upon. One can think of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, can remember his lotus feet, and by doing so, one can actually feel relieved from the embarrassments of material life. The material body is an embarrassment for the soul because it's a gross machine, gross and subtle machine, but we're much, much more subtle, categorically different. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Krishna himself. And Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita talks about why he comes to the material world. And what is one of the reasons that he mentions? Are we not passing around the mics because they have to be sterilized in between? Just be aware of that. We're passing it around, so don't touch your face. Okay.
One of the reasons he descends is to destroy the demons. One reason Krishna descends.
Boy, does he ever. Prabhupada said he does more killing than loving. So, what are three of the demons that he killed?
Bakasura.
Bakasura was a demon that looked like a big bird, and he tried to swallow Krishna, but he couldn't swallow Krishna because when he got him down his throat, Krishna turned red hot, and then he threw him back up again. And when he did that, then Krishna grabbed both of his beaks and he bifurcated him, and he killed Bakasura, who was a big, mighty demon. And Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that the demons don't have a taste for Krishna. They swallow him and he tastes hot. They can't stand it. So same way for neophytes, chanting Krishna's names, hearing about Krishna, that's also distasteful. What's a verse that says that? Starts with Syat. Syat Krishna Nama Stapta Vidya Pito Patapta Rasanasyana Rochikanu Kintwavarad Anudilam Kalusaiva Justa Swadvikramad Bhavati Tadgaramula Hantri. It means in the beginning, the names of Krishna, although they're very, very sweet, they taste bitter to somebody who has the disease of ignorance. So Krishna comes and he kills many demons, and then he also uplifts the devotees. And he comes at scheduled times. It's actually the Vishnu expansion of Krishna who kills the demons. Krishna always stays in Vrindavan. He doesn't do any of the killing. He's always engaged in loving pastimes with his devotees. But when Krishna appears, all of his incarnations appear with him. They're all within the body of the Lord. So normally in Kali Yuga, which yuga are we in now? Kali Yuga. Are you sure? Yes. How can you tell?
With all the miseries out here.
What?
With all the miseries and suffering.
There's a lot of miseries and suffering? Okay. The Kali Yuga has been going on for 5,000 years now, only. 432,000 more. So usually at the beginning of Kali Yuga, the Lord appears either as a jiva or in his Vishnu form in order to inaugurate the Yuga Dharma for Kali Yuga, which is what? Chanting Hare Krishna. Yes, it's the chanting of the holy names of the Lord. But in this particular Kali Yuga, Krishna descended to do the duty of Vishnu, of spreading the Yuga Dharma, and he also came for his own reasons. Now let's just talk about those reasons a little bit. And I'm going to read some excerpts from the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. Now, speaking of Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur mentioned that it was his favorite book because it's a garland of the verses of the Srimad Bhagavatam, and also brilliantly describes the pastimes of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the most merciful of all Krishna's incarnations. We find within the Chaitanya Charitamrita the instructions given by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to Sanatana Goswami, Rupa Goswami, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, Ramananda Roy, and many others. And there's the condensed essence of the philosophy of Krishna consciousness, along with poetry and the pastimes of the Lord presented in such an attractive way that once one hears from the Chaitanya Charitamrita, he or she loses all enchantment for material happiness. So it's an amazing feat that Prabhupada performed by producing the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. Once Prabhupada was visiting in the Bay Area, and there were a couple of godbrothers of mine there speaking to him, and one of them had just started a prasadam cart where he was selling Bengali sweets, among other things. And he told Prabhupada that I'm starting a prasadam cart to sell Bengali sweets. And the other godbrother that was there was famous as a book distributor. And he was selling Chaitanya Charitamrita. In fact, one of the first assignments I had was to be stationed in Atlanta, Georgia, at the Atlanta temple. That's the first place Prabhupada taught this song, Parama Karuna, as far as I can remember in America. And there was a sale going on at that time of the Chaitanya Charitamrita because they had printed too many Adi Lila Volume 1. It's a thick book. Is there an Adi Lila up there? Is it thick? Or is it divided into two pieces? Let's see. These two together. So now look at, say these were together, right? As one book. Only like about 4 or 5 of them fit in one case. And there was a sale at the BBT for these 2 books. Thank you. And so the temple president had ordered a mass quantity of these Adi Lila Volume 1s. And we were tasked with selling them at the airport. And people used to get a book from us about that big. So, when Prabhupada heard this devotee say that I'm selling Bengali sweets, Prabhupada pointed to the book distributor and said, he is selling the real Bengali sweets, the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. And for those who have a taste for it, the nectar is unlimited. There's only so much sandesh one can eat. But Chaitanya Charitamrita, one can go on reading every day more and more and relish unlimitedly, as did Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, our own Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. So, the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita was not really available even in India for a long time. In fact, Bhaktivinoda Thakur had to do a mighty search in order to find a complete copy of it at his time, in order to give his commentaries and to study the Chaitanya Charitamrita. And even when Srila Prabhupada came to America, there was no translation of the Chaitanya Charitamrita. So he worked on that. And he finished the whole thing and then asked that the whole book be printed. There was a professor in the University of Chicago at the time, Professor Dimmock, who was also coming out with the Chaitanya Charitamrita translation. He was a scholar of Gaudiya Vaishnavism. And among other reasons, Prabhupada wanted to make sure that his came out first. So you all know the story that he mandated that it come out within 2 months, which was an impossible task, but by Prabhupada's order, the devotees achieved it, bringing out the old Chaitanya Charitamrita. And it has the Bengali, the word-for-word translations, and Srila Prabhupada's purports. It is decidedly the most relishable book of the Gaudiya Vaishnavas, and perfectly rendered through the BBT. That's why we have it up on this special book stand today, because today devotees from many parts of the world have been writing in asking, since we're having a slightly altered program today, how will it be possible for them to sponsor sets of the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita so that they can be distributed to hundreds and thousands of people all over Silicon Valley and beyond. And I'm here to tell you that desire of yours needn't be put aside. You can certainly sponsor a set or more of the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, and we'll designate a few minutes for those who are online watching and have been waiting all day to have the opportunity to sponsor one or more sets of the Chaitanya Charitamrita to be distributed, placed in libraries, and so forth. Is that a relief for everyone to hear that? Because you thought we were going to pass right by that. Thank you, Nirkula. So when the Kali Yuga starts in this cycle, a miracle happens. That is 5,000 years ago, as this Kali Yuga was starting, and that is that it wasn't Vishnu who came to spread the Yuga Dharma. but it was Krishna himself. This is the point made here in the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita by Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami. And that is that Krishna had his own reasons for coming. He is swatantra, which means that he's fully independent. And whatever he decides to do, he will do, and whatever he wills will come to pass. Now, it's good to know what some of the reasons for him coming are. And he had internal and external reasons. As I mentioned the other day, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami designates between the internal reasons and the external reasons. But we're not to think that the external reasons are material reasons and the internal reasons are spiritual. Rather, they're both spiritual, all his reasons. However, the external reasons for his coming are meant for others, to do good for others. And the internal reasons are meant for himself. He had his own internal reasons for coming and his external reasons. So the external reasons had to do with the time for spreading the Yuga Dharma. And so he took up that task and appeared at the beginning of Kali Yuga, 500 years into the Kali Yuga, to spread the Yuga Dharma, which is the chanting of the holy names of the Lord. And there's another reason that he appeared, another external reason, and that is his love for his devotees. So Sri Advaita Acharya had been propitiating the Lord, begging him to come to the world, because at that time, Advaita Acharya, who is Mahavishnu himself, who also appeared as a devotee, as does Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, was disgusted with the way of the world. He saw that people were materialistically inclined. Even those who were studying scripture were only doing so to show off. And people were spending huge amounts of money on materialistic causes and rituals. And they had completely forgotten the path of devotional service. Does that sound familiar? Why are you laughing? Does it sound familiar to you?
Because that is the way of the world today.
In what way? Any specifics?
Like, people hoard many things, and
They what?
they hoard.
They hoard. Like what? Toilet paper? Yeah, there's a hoarding of toilet paper going on right now. So, that's pretty graphic. So the world was in a mess, and Prabhupada writes here in the Chaitanya Charitamrita that the symptom of an acharya is one who pains to see other people in pain. As Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Atma upamyena sarvatra samam pashyati Arjuna sukham va yadiva dukam sayogi paramo mataha. What does that mean? Tell me what it means. What does Atma upamyena sarvatra mean? Samam. What does sama mean? Pashyati. Samam pashyati means what?
One who sees.
Yeah.
One who experiences others.
And then how about sukham and dukam?
Happiness and
Yeah, we almost got the whole thing. So Atma upamyena sarvatra samam pashyati Arjuna sukham va yadiva dukam sayogi. What's a yogi? A devotee. Sayogi paramo mataha. My opinion. So Krishna says, my opinion is that the yogi who's the parama, the topmost of all the devotees, is the one who has atma upamyena. He has sympathy or feels empathy for others and understands what they're going through, both in their happiness and in their distress. He understands their existential conundrum, being entrapped here in the material world, and feels compelled to do something to help them. That, says Srila Prabhupada, is the symptom of an acharya. So I have a question for you. What is the symptom of an acharya? Would you say? Say it, someone? Someone who feels compassion and suffers because of the suffering of others? Absolutely correct. That is what Prabhupada says. So the nature of an acharya is to feel suffering because of the suffering of others, and that was Sri Advaita Acharya's nature. He felt suffering because he saw people suffering in ignorance. And therefore, he took it upon himself to call the Supreme Personality of Godhead to come down to the world to save the world. So that's another external reason why Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared in this world. One was to spread the Yuga Dharma, the other was to fulfill the desire of Advaita Acharya. And then the Lord had internal reasons why he wanted to come. And the general sum of those is that he wanted to experience the same kind of love that his devotees have for him, because he noticed that the devotees enjoy more than he does, because he's the object of their love. And because he's the object, he can't enjoy that kind of love that the devotees have for him, and therefore he wanted to come as his own devotee. And that's why he appeared as a devotee of the Lord. So he comes for the external reason of spreading the Yuga Dharma, and for the internal reason of experiencing the same kind of love that his devotees have for him. So now he comes as his own devotee. And Srimati Radharani is the topmost of all devotees. She is the Swarup, or the form manifested from his Hladini Shakti, or his pleasure-giving potency. And Krishna, the Supreme, has manifested himself separately in the two, that is Radha and Krishna, to enjoy pastimes together. But now, when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appears, he and Srimati Radharani appear as one. They're now embodied in one personality, named Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And who knows a verse that would describe that phenomenon? Chop, chop. Come on. Take the mic. Don't touch your face afterwards. Go ahead. You say it. Just try. If you get part way, then we'll fix it the rest of the way.
Radha Bhavadyuti Suvalitam Nam.
What about Radha Krishna?
Radha Krishna Pranaya Vikritir Ladini Shaktir Asmad Ekatmana Bhuvi Api Bhuvi Purdeham.
Okay, you try.
Chaitanyakyam
Prakatam,
Prakatam
Aduna, Dvayam,
Vayam
Chaikyam,
Punar
Aptam,
Aptam
Radha Bhav,
Radha
Suvalitam,
Naumi
Naumi Krishna
Krishna
Surupam. Right. So Radha Krishna Pranaya Vikritir. Were you going to say more? Ladini Shakti Rasmat, yes.
On a different verse? Or
You want to say different first? Okay, yes, please.
Krishna Varnam Tusha Krishnam Sangopangashta Parshadam Yagyai Sankirtana Prayaya Jantihi Sumedasa. That he's actually not looking like Krishna, although he is Krishna. He looks the opposite, which is golden. Gora Varakalevaram. So he he has come here with his associates, his weapons, his potencies, and together they are spreading the holy name, the chanting of Hare Krishna.
So he's not blackish.
Yes, and all the intelligent people, they join in this type of venture.
Sumedasa.
Yeah.
So Akrishna means he's not blackish. Implication in he's golden, right? But there is a time when Lord Chaitanya turned black. Do you know when it is?
Right after the delivery of Jagai and Madai, there was a big festival, and Jagai and Madai's sins were transferred to the body of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and he looked like Shyamasundar.
Yeah. They're all looking at him, and he said, "How do I look?" And Vaitacharya said, "You look like Krishna," because he turned blackish. Beautiful. So this is the esoteric understanding of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And so if you worship Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who are you worshiping really, according to this verse? Radha and Krishna. Yeah. This is something realized by Ramananda Roy. When Ramananda Roy was speaking to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was asking the questions, wasn't he? And Ramananda Roy was answering the questions. Ramananda Roy said, "I'm just like a puppet. Whatever you are dictating me to speak from within, I'm speaking. But it's coming from you, although I'm acting like a puppet." And during his talks with Ramananda Roy saw Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as Krishna, and he mentioned it. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, "Of course, you're a Mahabhagavata, and a Mahabhagavata sees Krishna everywhere, within everything." And then Ramananda was, no, it's not that. I'm actually seeing that you are Radha and Krishna combined. And then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu manifested as two forms of Radha and Krishna to Ramananda Roy, who fainted when he saw them. Then Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Radha Krishna Nahi Anya, Radha and Krishna combined. So in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Kaviraj Goswami gives in the 3rd chapter the external reasons for the Lord's appearance, and then in the 4th chapter he gives the internal reasons. And Srila Prabhupada writes, in the first verse of the 4th chapter, which is called the confidential reasons for the Lord's appearance, and that is, notwithstanding this truth, even a small child can understand Lord Sri Krishna and his transcendental pastimes in the land of Vrindavan by the grace of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Shall I read it again? Notwithstanding this truth, even a small child can easily understand Lord Sri Krishna and his transcendental pastimes in the land of Vrindavan by the grace of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And this is an excerpt from the purport from an original verse written by Kaviraj Goswami, which says, "By the mercy of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, even a foolish child can fully describe the real nature of Lord Krishna, the enjoyer of the pastimes of Vraja, according to the vision of the revealed scriptures." So this is the benediction of worshiping Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, that even if one comes from a very degraded background, or one may be, as it's said here, a foolish child, by worshiping Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, one becomes empowered to not only understand, but also to describe the beautiful qualities of Lord Krishna. Thank you very much. And so, this is a profound benefit, don't you think, of worshiping Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? That if you worship Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, then you can come to understand the personality who's the most difficult to understand, and that is Lord Krishna, what to speak of Radha and Krishna, just by worshiping Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So that's one reason why we worship Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and why he's the best. And I'm picking out a few excerpts, places that I've marked. This is from the 4th chapter of the Adi Lila, text number 15 through 16. The Lord's desire to appear was born from two reasons. The Lord wanted to taste the sweet essence of the mellows of love of God, and he wanted to propagate devotional service in the world on the platform of spontaneous attraction. Thus he is known as supremely jubilant and as the most merciful of all. And in the purport, Prabhupada writes, "But the real purpose of Lord Krishna's appearance was to stage a dramatic performance of his transcendental pastimes at Vrajabhumi. thus exhibiting the highest limit of transcendental mellow in the exchanges of reciprocal love between the living entity and the Supreme Lord. These reciprocal exchanges of mellows are called the Raga Bhakti, or devotional service to the Lord in transcendental rapture. Lord Sri Krishna wants to make known to all the conditioned souls that he is more attracted by Raga Bhakti than Vidhi Bhakti, or devotional service under scheduled regulations. It is said in the Vedas, Taittiriya Upanishad, Raso Vai Saha. The absolute truth is a reservoir for all kinds of reciprocal exchanges of loving sentiments. He is also causelessly merciful, and he wants to bestow upon us this privilege of Raga Bhakti. Thus he appears by his own internal energy. He was not forced to appear by any extraneous force. So what did you hear just then? Yes.
I like the last point, which said he appeared by his own internal energy and not by any extraneous force. That just shows that Krishna is so powerful that nothing can force him into doing anything.
Yeah, he appears by his own sweet will, right? That's nice. What else did you hear? Yes, Prabhu?
The Lord is attracted more to Raga Bhakti
Yes.
than the
This is an important point. There's Vidhi Bhakti and Raga Bhakti. So Vidhi means rules and regulations, worshiping Krishna with awe and reverence, and Raga Bhakti means spontaneous, loving attachment to devotees, to the Lord, following in the footsteps of the devotees of Vrindavan. This is Raga Bhakti or Raga Anuga Bhakti, spontaneous devotional service. And which of the two is Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu particularly coming to teach? Yeah. Exactly. Any other points? Okay. Then, we find in text number 19, Prabhupada writes, "It is pure and natural love of Godhead, spontaneously aroused in the absolute stage. This devotional service is executed in a favorable atmosphere, freed from material affection." Again, text 19, the last sentence says, "It is pure and natural love of Godhead, spontaneously aroused in the absolute stage. This devotional service is executed in a favorable atmosphere, freed from material affection." So the kind of spontaneous love that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is teaching comes in a favorable atmosphere, and which is also free from any material affection. So in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna talks about favorable circumstances. He says, "Yesham tvanta katam papam jananam punyakarmanam te dvandva mohanir mukta bhajantimam dridhavrata." That when one is freed from sinful reactions, then one can perform devotional service with determination. Dridhavrata. Yesham tvanta katam papam jananam punyakarmanam. And when one has some pious activity, some pious credit, and is freed from sin, this is a favorable environment. And the most favorable of all environments is described in the Srimad Bhagavatam as the association of advanced devotees. For instance, Satam Prasangam Mama Virya Sambido Bhavanti Hrit Karna Rasayana Kata Taj Joshanat Ashu Pavargavartmani Shradaratir Bhaktir Anukrimishriti. And that is that when one associates with satam, that is, devotees who are fully dedicated to the process of devotional service, then one hears and chants in such a way that he or she is elevated naturally in the process of devotional service and comes to the perfectional stage. And devotional service, which is freed from material affection, this is the point of the Bhagavatam. And as Radhika Raman Prabhu pointed out, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's philosophy is the Bhagavatam. In fact, in the Chaitanya Manjusha, it is said, "Aradyo Bhagavan Vrajesha Tanyas Taddama Vrindavana Ramya Katchadupasana Rajavidu Vargina Volkalpita Srimad Bhagavatam Pramanam Amalam Purema Pumarto Mahan Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Matamidam Tatradarya Nabtara. Last line was butchered. The opinion of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is that Lord Krishna and his abode are, they're what? Non-different. Krishna is the same as his abode. And also, the best method for worshiping the Lord, which is that which was conceived and carried out by the Gopis of Vrindavan. And I did a little training from Bhakti Marg Swami. And also that the Srimad Bhagavatam is the spotless Purana and the authority on all things. And the ultimate goal of life is Krishna Prema. These four tenets of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's teachings are profoundly presented throughout the teachings of Lord Chaitanya and the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita and the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the main source of guidance for all Gaudiya Vaishnavas, begins by saying that it rejects all religious activities that are materially motivated. Only those who are nirmat saranam, they're free from envy, and they're also not asking for anything. They're only doing service for service to the Lord. This is free from material affection. This is the standard of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's teachings. So in order to advance in devotional service, these are several of the requisites in order to develop pure devotional service. So what are some of them? One is that according to this, I'll just read it again. Prabhupada writes in the last two sentences of the Adi Lila 4:19, he says, "It is pure and natural love of Godhead, spontaneously aroused at the absolute stage." And then he says, "This devotional service is executed in a favorable atmosphere, freed from material affection." That's right, without any material affection. These are standard and basic understandings of the Srimad Bhagavatam and Lord Chaitanya's teachings. So then, I'm going to read you a verse that is quoted by Kaviraj Goswami here in the Chaitanya Charitamrita in text number 23. And if you are so inclined, please repeat for the benefit of the world. Mai bhaktir hi bhutanam amritatvaya kalpate dishya yad asin mat sneho bhavatinam mad apanaha. This is Lord Krishna, and he says, "Devotional service rendered to me by the living entities revives their eternal life. O my dear damsels of Vraja, your affection for me is your good fortune, for it is the only means by which you have obtained my favor." So this is a very important verse about devotional service and how Krishna says that if you develop devotional service by the association of devotees, then you become the most fortunate, and he says it's the only way that one can attain him. So this is what Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was teaching, how to develop this sense of devotional service to the Supreme Personality of God without any motivation. This is the greatest fortune of life. And I'm going to read one more, and then I'd like you to ask a couple questions. This is from text 27 through 28. And in the purport, Prabhupada writes, "Lord Krishna in the form of Lord Chaitanya educates his devotees to develop progressively to the stage of pure devotional service. Thus he appears periodically as a devotee to take part in various wonderful activities depicted in his sublime philosophy and teachings. I'm going to read it one more time. Are you listening? Okay. Ready? Lord Krishna, in the form of Lord Chaitanya, educates his devotees to develop progressively to the stage of pure devotional service. Thus he appears periodically as a devotee to take part in various wonderful activities depicted in his sublime philosophy and teachings. Now, just see if you have any questions so far. Yes?
You mentioned the verse in Bhagavad Gita that stated that if one is free from sinful reactions, then they can practice Krishna consciousness with determination. But we also hear that Krishna consciousness is itself a very powerful process. So is it right to understand that Krishna consciousness is somehow dependent on one being free of sin? Or is that something that concomitantly happens in the practice of Krishna consciousness?
What a great question. It is answered if you'll hand me the Madhya Lila, chapter 22, by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, as he's describing to Sanatan Goswami in the chapter called Devotional Service, that there's a way in which he quotes from the Bhagavatam that when a person who's wandering throughout the universes comes to the end of all his sinful activities, then he becomes attracted. Thank you, sir. This is chapter 22, the process of devotional service. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu here is describing how the conditioned soul is averse to the Supreme Personality of Godhead and becomes a servant to lusty desires. But then he meets a devotee who's like a doctor. He's carrying a little black bag, and it's got hymns and instructions inside. And then he awakens. And he goes on to describe how it is the association of such devotees that awakens one and to devotional service. And then he quotes from the Srimad Bhagavatam, in which it's mentioned that when one becomes freed from sinful activities in the material world, then he's able to take up the process of devotional service. But simultaneously, and I'm not finding the verse immediately, simultaneously, by the association of those devotees, one gets an opportunity to hear about Krishna and to get some spiritual credit. And that becomes purifying, because even if one comes from a lowly background, if one hears from devotees, if one is able to associate with devotees and serve them, then even if one isn't pious, then one can develop that by the association of devotees. That is something mentioned in the Srimad Bhagavatam by Shukadeva Goswami when he says, Kirata hunandra pulinda pulkusha abhirashumba yavana kasaraya yene chapapa yarapashraya shraya shudyanti tasmai pravavishnave namaha. No matter what one's background is, if one is able to come in contact with the pure devotees of the Lord, by the power of Lord Vishnu that comes through them, they can become purified, take to the process of devotional service. In one case, Prabhupada mentioned that he had bestowed upon his disciples good fortune by his association. Although it is mentioned in the Nectar of Devotion that if one takes the devotional service in this life, it's known that he or she has performed it in previous lives due to association with devotees. So there's a slight conundrum about when it starts. But Krishna also mentions in the Gita that if one becomes spontaneously attracted to devotional service, one should know that he or she has performed the process in previous life, and that's why he or she is attracted in this life so much. Malini, are we going to distribute some sets of Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita? She said yes. If she says yes, I think it's going to happen. It's an interesting energy here today, don't you think? How would you describe it? Huh? Different? Hmm?
I was just thinking how it makes us reflect and feel grateful when we have full freedom to take advantage of association whenever we want, in like physical proximity.
Yeah, that's true. See Hari Sankirtan Prabhu, he has his own space back there behind the window. What do you think, Hari Sankirtan Prabhu? Is that the safest place to be?
Yes. So when you were singing the song Parama Karuna, right? Basically, like the jokes is going around like Krishna, Mahaprabhu or Krishna's mercy that Karuna will defeat the coronavirus. So, and yesterday I was reading like when we were doing some reading. Actually, today morning when we were reading, we read that when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appears in the heart, he is like the lion that will drive away the elephantine vices, right? So I was just praying that let that Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu be embedded in our heart so that we can, all our anarthas are away.
That's why we're here. And when we come and actually hear about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and we chant his holy names, then whatever vices are there within the heart, they become destroyed by his power. And it's actually the organized system of the Vaishnavas, the great acharyas, that we have books that we can make available to people so that they can also take to the process of devotional service. It's miraculous, in fact. And we have everything at our fingertips. So many literatures that are sufficient in themselves to explain the process of devotional service so that people can overcome the great obstacles. And as Kaviraj Goswami calls them, the elephantine vices that are caused by Kali Yuga, and which one carries within one's heart. If you hear the voice, the lion-like voice of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu through his devotees, then those, just as elephants flee, they're called Digibat. Digibat is described by Prahlad Maharaj when he was praying to Lord Nrsingadev. He said, when you came out roaring, you scared all the lions in the universe. All the elephants. They all ran away. Because the roaring of a lion is very powerful. There's a vibration, a special vibration that's in the roar of a lion. You probably know this because you read so many books. That is specifically or very fearsome for anyone to hear. And so the voice of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is so purifying. If we hear about him and if we hear his teachings to his devotees, that the elephantine vices means they're very strong, hard to overcome. They can be overcome by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mercy. Thank you, Prabhu. Yes. Now, yeah. I'm a little worried about this passing of the microphone thing. I mean, we should have some special way of, what do you think? Okay. When you use the mic, take one of these and wipe it down before you pass it to the next person. It's one thing I thought about that we pass around a lot. Can those be used on hands also? Yeah? No? They're just for services. Okay, so when you get the mic, you're going to get a little wipe also. Just what we have to do right now. Okay, go ahead.
What you said about hearing and association, throughout this whole week, I was feeling sort of like down the whole week, and I came home and I started listening to kirtan, and then I realized that it was because I missed the association of devotees at temple, and now I'm like having association and listening, and my mood has gotten a lot better now. So it's really important.
Yeah, I could see you're brightening up. But so is everyone else. It was like really, yeah, it's hard. I was thinking also with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he asked Ramananda Roy, what is suffering? And Ramananda Roy answered, I know of no other suffering in this world except for separation from the Vaishnava. And so when we're separated from devotees, then it becomes intolerable. Anything else we can tolerate, but when we have the association of Vaishnavas, it's tolerable. Thank you. Yes, Monisha. Microphone plus towel. And we have hand sanitizer too. Just keep doing it. Be very careful.
I had a question from the last two sentences we had read. I think it was talking about how something arouses at the last stage. So can we refer back to that on the screen as
Sure.
well?
In its pure and natural, it is pure and natural love of Godhead, spontaneously aroused in the absolute stage.
So in that when it's talking about the absolute stage, does that mean like the last moment of our lives, or just in certain circumstances?
What it means here, although that's a really good interpretation, we can talk about that also. What it means here is when we come to the absolute stage, means the stage of the absolute means the stage of Krishna, which is defined by Lord Shiva in the Srimad Bhagavatam, Sattvam Vishuddham Vasudeva Shabditam Yad Iyate Tatra Puman Upavrita. This is called the stage of Shuddha Sattva, the absolute stage, which is beyond the three modes of material nature. Even in Sattva Gun, in the material world, there's some tinge of passion and ignorance. But in Shuddha Sattva, one comes to see Krishna directly, because this is the absolute stage. It's beyond the three modes of material nature. But I liked what you said also. In the absolute stage, there's a way in which Prabhupada describes in the light of the Bhagavat that our lifetime is a Chaturmasya-like existence. Have you ever practiced Chaturmasya? You don't have to. But in the old days, Chaturmasya was during the rainy season. Have you ever been around in a true monsoon rainy season where 4 months it rained without stoppage? Prabhu, you have, Mayank?
Yes.
What's it like?
It rains a lot, the grass grows really tall, and there is water and mud all around. Children can't play in the playground.
Yep. And in the old days, it wasn't just the playground, it was also, people generally went by bullock cart or other more simple conveyances. There weren't cement roads and things, concrete roads. And so you had to walk everywhere. So people generally, and it was very difficult during that time. So people stayed in one place for 4 months, and they would hear and chant and perform austerities, because generally when you sit in one place as a renunciate, you start to get attached. And in order to not get attached, they would perform severe austerities like eating only once a day. Does anyone here do that? Just eat once a day? Okay, and it's not sumptuously. It means that you eat once a day. You put the food on the floor, and you put your hands behind your back, and then you lean down and you eat as much as you can until you come up. And once you come up, you can't eat anymore, and that's all you get to eat for the day. And what do you get to eat? Tacos? No, you eat havishan. Havishan means mung and rice cooked together with no spices at all. There's no salt, no spice. That's all you eat. And many other austerities. So then, some sadhus, they would do this chaturmasya for 4 months. And they stay in one place, in one room practically, and just do their hearing and chanting. And then after 4 months, they'd move on. So, Prabhupada writes that these renunciates wouldn't realize the powerful effect of this practice until they left. They left the room. So he said, in the same way, we may not realize the full effect of our practice of devotional service until we leave this body. Because our lifetime is a chaturmasya-like existence. What is our life like? That's right, yeah. So in that sense, when one leaves the body. So the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita is arguably one of the most, I would say, according to what is mentioned by our acharyas, it is our most important book, presenting the philosophy of Krishna consciousness. Therefore, we want to propagate it as far as possible to people all over the world. It should be preserved. You can see that anything can happen in the world and people can get isolated. So what if everyone in Italy right now, if I heard someone said that Italy was on lockdown. The whole country? That's outrageous. We were going to have our BBT meeting there, but I guess not now. What if they were locked in a room, they couldn't go out, but they had the Chaitanya Charitamrita? Not bad, right? And so, people, they're missing Krishna, they're missing Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And the best way for them to come in contact and understand him is through the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. Prabhupada went to such pains to make it available. And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur once said that people of the world will learn Bengali just so they can read the Chaitanya Charitamrita. But Prabhupada beat him to it. He had it translated. He translated it all into English and gave his invaluable commentary to the whole thing, and then entrusted it to his book trust to make sure that in perpetuity, what does that mean? Just tell me what it means. In perpetuity. Without stoppage, perpetually. It would be perpetuity. Actually, it's 2 words. Perpetuity means continuously. So in perpetuity, it would be available to human society.
Nachari Armarman, Nachari Armarman, Nachari Armarman, Nachari Armarman, hey, Nachari Armarman, Nachari Armarman, Nachari Armarman, Nachari Armarman.